Hello everyone, my name is Madyson Pryor, and today I'd like to start off by saying that I've never really been one to take self-help books seriously. Not the authors themselves, but the advice that the author gives, I don't actually believe that we can apply that to every person's life. Well, I guess after reading Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, I would like to retract this statement. Time permitting, I'd like to go through 6 or 7 concepts, part 1 through 4 of Carnegie's book, and tell you how I applied these concepts and these principles to my everyday life and how they've helped me grow as an individual. These concepts will include appreciation, speaking, encouraging, questioning, arguing, and smiling. I'd like to start off with part 1 with the first couple of principles, one of which includes the principle of appreciation. In Carnegie's principle of appreciation, he states that deep down every person's wish is to be deeply and truly appreciated and to feel important. Of course, he mentions how some people make themselves feel important, maybe by donating money or giving gifts, something that raises their feeling of self-importance. He also states that as people in today's society, we tend to focus on criticizing what goes wrong instead of praising what could have or has gone right, which I totally agree with. We do this every day. I decided to take this principle and apply it to my life through my work. I am an assistant manager, so oftentimes there are things that may go wrong, and there are tense situations where sometimes things may not be corrected the way they should be, and I fully acknowledge that. So what I decided to do was these past couple of weeks, I decided to apply this principle to my life by praising my coworkers or letting them know when I think they're doing something well, or praising them before they've even done something, but I know they're going to do it. I noticed that after a couple of weeks, my coworkers not only came to work in a better mood, but they applied themselves more thoroughly and they felt more comfortable around me. I'd like to move on to the second principle I'll be discussing, which is the principle of smiling. It's here that Carnegie says that smiling will not only attract people towards you, but whistling, singing, smiling to yourself during the day will imitate the feeling of happy until you are truly happy and will raise your mood significantly. He says that it is not the clothes on one's back that matters, but the expression that one wears on one's face, which I 100% agree with, and I found this extremely interesting when I first read it. I decided to apply this principle quite literally. While I was at work once again, I chose to approach my coworkers with a smile every day, approach the customers with a smile every day, and I started just singing, whistling to myself, smiling, and I noticed that I felt happier during my shifts. My shifts went faster, and I had more fun with the people I was working with. And I noticed that my coworkers came into work with a smile, and they approached me with a smile before I even noticed they were there. And the customers came up to the register with a smile, and they left in a better mood, which led to better customer interactions. I'd like to move on to the next principle, which is listening to people in terms of their interests. It's here that Carnegie describes a good listener as somebody who is interested and asks questions. He says that people prefer to listen to them talk about themselves or listen to something about themselves than they do to prefer listening to things about other people. I decided to take this advice and apply it to my own listening skills throughout my work and my friends' life. I noticed that when I asked my friends and my family and my coworkers about their interests, what was going on in their lives, anything new that they were doing, they felt not only that I was listening to them and that I had become a better listener, but I feel the bond between us connected as well. I feel that our bonds became stronger over time, especially with my coworkers who, of course, let's be honest, we're not always going to be best friends. I'd like to move on to the next principle, which is the art of arguing. It's here that Carnegie says the best way to win an argument is to avoid it, which is honestly pretty good advice in my opinion. He stated that people will deeply and truly always believe that they are right, so it's better to just avoid an argument altogether or approach it at a different angle. I decided to take this principle, Carnegie's principle of arguing, or rather avoiding an argument altogether, and apply it to my own family life. I grew up with a twin sister, so obviously we fought a lot when we were kids. Conflict is inevitable through a lot of siblings, And though it may not happen as much anymore now that we're both older, conflict and arguments still do arise, and sometimes it's just hard not to continue to instigate them if we're both in a bad mood. So these past couple of weeks, I've decided, with my sister especially, because she and I have the most arguments, of course we still have a pretty good relationship, but it still does happen, I decided to, when she was upset or when she was trying to instigate something, I decided to fully listen, understand, and discuss what she was upset about to get to the root of the actual problem. Of course, this didn't solve all of our conflict issues, but over time I noticed that she felt that she was actually being listened to and that she was being considered. And it felt as though our relationship and our bond truly benefited from this. I'd like to move on to Carnegie's principle of questioning instead of ordering somebody. It's this principle where Carnegie explains, that if you phrase an order in terms of a question such as, what do you think about this? Or what do you think if we did this? Or how about this? People are more likely to respond to you if they feel that they take part in that decision making, which is honestly an extremely interesting point of view that I had never thought about before, because I always thought that this really just interpreted itself into real life as being polite and not like super pushy. Of course, I decided to apply this, again, like smiling quite literally, to my life and with my coworkers, actually. Again, I am assistant manager. So sometimes there are things that need to get done, and sometimes I cannot do them, so I have to ask somebody to do them for me. And of course, sometimes if we're in a rush, this comes out as an order. And I hate doing that, and I hate feeling as though I am bossing somebody around, which I guess, of course, bossing is kind of my job description, but I digress. These couple of weeks, have decided to, instead of order my coworkers, especially if we're in a rush, to phrase the thing I wanted them to do in form of a question. And I did this for a couple of weeks whenever I remembered, of course, which was pretty often. And I noticed that over the couple of weeks that I was practicing this, and I still am continuing to practice it, that my coworkers not only were more voluntarily approached tasks, but they were working harder. They felt as though, this kind of ties in with the appreciation, I was considering their feelings more, and they felt more comfortable around me as a whole, and they didn't feel intimidated as they had previously. Not that I'm very intimidating. I'd like to move on to the last principle I'd like to be discussing, which is the principle of encouragement. And this is encouraging people as a whole, and I decided to use this with my friends and family. That's all for today. Thank you for listening to this, and I'd like to once again say that I'd like to rescind my previous statement, and I would like to further maybe research some self-help books, such as Dale Carnegie's How to Influence and Influence People. And I'd like to continue to broaden my horizon, especially with these concepts that we covered today, like encouraging, speaking in terms of others, smiling, listening, and arguing. Thank you, everybody, for listening.